It is only in open and free societies that people can have an event like this, where people can protest, where people can...
The Oslo Freedom Forum has pulled a diverse but very powerful crowd. Former Polish President Lech Walesa, Malaysian opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim, founder of PayPal and human rights supporter Peter Thiel, and a mercurial Australian who seems to be just now emerging from the shadows, Julian Assange.
He risks his life to promote transparency. Please welcome Julian Assange.
For the past 3 years, Assange has been one of the key, mostly anonymous figures behind a controversial website, WikiLeaks.
So I'm not sure how many people here are familiar with the basics of my work. Now let's try and go very...
The site is designed to encourage employees within government, the military and the private sector to anonymously leak key internal documents onto the WikiLeaks servers.
And expose them where they can be opposed.
WikiLeaks' most recent bombshell was a video leaked from the US military.
Come on, fire!
It showed the killing of 12 people, including 2 Reuters journalists, and the shelling of civilians, including children who went to their aid. If there was anyone who hadn't heard of WikiLeaks before, they certainly had after this video hit the airwaves around the world.
That worked.
Yeah,
It really worked.
really worked. That was...
We went to the dragon's cave.
Yeah.
While it was asleep, very quickly.
Yeah.
And pissed in the corner.
I met
And then left.
Yeah. I met Seymour.
In the past couple of years, WikiLeaks has revealed a remarkable range of documents. NATO's military strategy for the war in Afghanistan, the Australian government's secret blacklist of internet sites, even the operating manuals from Guantanamo Bay.
But he was afraid that the American authorities are going to chase you down and go after you.
Oh well, they've been trying to do it for a while.
Watch it, he said.
But the more prominent the stories have become, attention has shifted to who WikiLeaks is, and in particular, its most prominent organiser.
You are the only one which is sounding like a pure angel.
Me?
Yes.
A pure angel?
Yeah,
It's just the hair. Come on.
No.
To date, Assange has been totally media shy or just impossible to contact.
Can you get your autograph, please? Yes.
A moving target, difficult for either governments or journalists to pin down.
Who too?
Arnie. A-R.
Until now, he has refused to do any interviews about his life or work and been labelled difficult, or more often paranoid, by a number of publications. The Sunday Times referred to him as elusive as a modern-day pimpernel and an international man of mystery, according to the Sydney Morning Herald.
But to date, WikiLeaks has been certainly viewed as a shadowy type of organisation, very hard.
Just because we don't have time to answer journalists' questions doesn't
That
mean we're
makes it
shadowy.
very shadowy.
Doesn't mean we're shadowy. This is just like some Hollywood movie, shadowy.
Well, but you are shadowy. You have no office, you have no location, you have no spokespeople, you've had nothing.
We're sensible. I mean, we understand some of the forces against us, some of the legal forces and some of the intelligence forces. So we take sensible precautions.
Well, I guess one of the advantages of being so fluid is that there's no office to raid, there's no
Yes.
computer to seize.
That's right.
It's hard to pin WikiLeaks down.
Yeah, that's right. And there's not merely me being fluid, but rather everyone being a bit fluid.
Who is everyone?
To call Assange fluid is an understatement. WikiLeaks has no headquarters and Assange has no permanent home. He mostly roams around the world on his own schedule with whatever he can cram into his backpack, and for a few days he lets me tag along.
Breathe.
It is quite remarkable. You're running your part of this organisation. You're running it from buses and train stations.
Yes.
On a $300 laptop.
Yep.
It's hardly the image of some big supercomputer system and bunkers.
We have those.
You have them too, yeah.
We have those, but we don't carry them in our pocket.
Yeah.
Assange names Kenya and Iceland as places he would go if he was sick or in trouble, but he's rarely in either place.
Are you constantly on the move? Is that a security issue for you, or is it a personal choice?
I don't know. So, no, it's not running from anything. It's just that there are opportunities, and I like travel. Maybe not quite so much as I've been doing in the past few weeks, but I like traveling every 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, I start to get itchy feet.
So
Assange agrees to talk for the first time about his background in Australia, his previous hacking activities there and the charges he faced, and his current role in WikiLeaks.
well, let's start with who you are. What is your background? What is your childhood and your youth?
So I
I
don't know. How do I sum up?
Is it true? 30 schools.
37.
37 schools.
One of them was correspondence school. I was in a theatre family, and we were touring around. Some people get horrified by this. Oh, you poor thing, you went to all these schools. But actually, during this period, I really liked this. There was a second period from the age of about 10. My mother had become involved with a former person who seems to be the son of Anne Hamilton Byrne, the Anne Hamilton Byrne cult in Australia. And we kept getting tracked down, possibly because of leaks within the social security system, and having to leave very quickly to a new city and go move under assumed names.
Assange first came to notice in Australia in 1995 when he was charged with 30 hacking offences.
Julian Assange and James Carter allegedly accessed computer systems around the world through weak links in the internet system. Jeff Chettle said Assange had developed a program to collect passwords, meaning the whole computer opened up to him and he could walk around like God Almighty.
We were young, we hadn't done anything for criminal gain. We had done this out of curiosity, challenge, and some activism. Some anti-nuclear and other forms of activism, and we hadn't destroyed anything.
The court was told the men even tampered with the police investigation into hacking at the ANU. Police claim the men managed to gain...
So if you're a teenager in a suburb of Melbourne, this was an incredibly intellectually liberating thing.
It was an activity he began in the early 90s and involved breaking into police, telcos and US military computers.
But you're a kid and you're getting into American military installations of some sort, right? This is extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, we had a back door in the US Military Security Coordination Center. This is the peak security for controlling the security of MILNET, the US military internet. We had total control over this for 2 years.
But that wasn't all that hackers from Melbourne were involved in at the time.
The US space agency NASA is one of the victims of the Melbourne computer hacking syndicate. American investigators, including the FBI, contacted Australian authorities with their suspicions.
The case of a computer worm that stalled a NASA space launch was never solved.
This led at one point to NASA being penetrated by this group, we'll call it.
By Melbourne hackers.
Melbourne hackers. And
still not known really well who was behind that. A subset of the Melbourne hacker community was interested in NASA at that time because it was launching a satellite which included a significant amount of plutonium, 50 kilos of plutonium. And
The potential that hacking had to disrupt other computer systems wasn't what most excited Assange. It was the revelation of peering at secret documents and the hidden world they unveiled.
The true nature of this world has been revealed. It's not been interpreted for you. There it is, face to face, from the inside. And these emails are not directed to you or at you, so they're truer. It's like a photograph.
An insight that clearly spawned WikiLeaks.
But it's the same idea now, really, isn't it? It's peering inside something you're not meant to peer at, and you're still doing it.
Well, the method is different, but yeah.
Yeah.
He was also charged in the 1990s with printing a seditious publication, a magazine prophetically entitled International Subversive. In The Boy Can Be Found the Man. It seems he has actually become what he dreamt of being as a teenager in the suburbs of Melbourne, albeit at a cost to his treasured anonymity.
It does take getting used to, yes.
Why are you doing it now when you weren't doing it before?
Because people started writing about us, even though we weren't speaking to the media. And as a result, they were just inventing things. The public demands that it has a face, and actually we'd much sort of prefer, I'd prefer if it didn't have to have a face. And we tried to do that for a while, and people just, the demand was sort of so great, people just started inventing faces.
Well, you look very pretty anyway.
Thank you.
WikiLeaks är ju ett forum kan man säga som drivs av ett nätverk journalister som...
Assange is stepping forward to promote the Iraq video. Publicity is one way of rewarding the risks taken by the leakers. And perhaps more importantly, it's encouraging others to leak to his site.
People who have very sensitive material have trust in us.
Sweden is friendly legal ground and home to many of WikiLeaks' servers. Accordingly, Assange makes himself more readily available to Swedish media in all of its forms.
That's an extremely versatile woman.
Incredible. Quite a segue.
We have support here, and the reason there is good law in Sweden is because the culture supports that law.
So far the political will is behind you?
Yeah, in Sweden.
Assange is becoming well known here, but his influence has become much more pronounced in a seemingly unlikely corner of the world. Iceland was hit first and hit hardest by the global financial crisis. The nation was being dragged into virtual bankruptcy by its high-flying banks when WikiLeaks flew into the maelstrom. Last year, the national broadcaster was tipped off by WikiLeaks to some explosive banking documents. The WikiLeaks documents revealed the loan book of Iceland's biggest bank.
Sort of cycle of lending to itself and...
A frenetic trail of funds was shown being shifted to friends and associates as the bank was on the verge of collapse.
The bank's owners were effectively lending themselves money.
The bank responded with an injunction, the first in the history of Icelandic media, and it landed on the desk of newsreader Bogi Augustsson.
It was incredible because I first learned about what had happened when we were literally going on air. And so we didn't have any time to prepare any response or anything like that. So whatever I said was ad lib. In this case, it simply escaped me that I let my feelings show.
In place of the pulled story, Boy referred his audience to the source to see the damaging documents for themselves. And WikiLeaks was launched into the mainstream of Icelandic politics.
That is why a project like this one, like WikiLeaks, are popular among the Icelandic people, because there has to be a forum for openness, for exchanging information, for leaking in a safe manner. That's exactly that. So it sort of strikes a chord with the Icelandic people at the moment, I think.
Riding that wave of popularity, Assange began lobbying Icelandic politicians to create an international safe haven for journalists and the media. Government member and former journalist Robert Marshall is one of the proponents of the bill,
The main object of it?
which has the support of members of every party in the parliament.
Well, it's not just local, it's international.
Of course, it's something that international media could use as a haven for a branch of their office or
In essence, the legislation would provide a shelter for media organisations that incorporate here. Servers free from international injunctions or search orders, whistleblower protection, and all sheltering under Iceland's very narrow libel laws.
even though a court in London comes to the conclusion that it's libel or something that you should have to be fined for, that verdict won't hold up against the Icelandic courts.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite a radical idea, though.
Yes, it is, but it's necessary because big corporation has been increasingly using their legal teams to try to gag media.
So you're doing what...
Iceland's ambition to create an international media haven looks likely to pass into legislation.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And it's poles apart from what's unfolding in Australia.
The report has not yet been finalised.
Communications Minister, Senator Stephen Conroy, is preparing a growing list of internet sites that Australians will not be able to access.
National Classification Code.
And it's a list that cannot be seen or published. It's illegal to do so, but of course WikiLeaks did, and in turn earned itself a place on the list.
We're still on the blacklist. Who knows it's a blacklist? How can we get off the blacklist? There is no procedure to get off the blacklist. I mean, it is a Soviet-style system.
The threat of you being served with legal papers, indeed the threat of you being arrested as you enter a jurisdiction, has escalated dramatically.
There are places, Dubai, who's trying to have us arrested for violation of bank secrecies. Switzerland, Cayman Islands, Australia had the federal police in relation to this secret censorship list. So yes, there are some jurisdictions that from time to time it wouldn't be sensible to go there.
Sensible or not, Assange entered Australia several days ago. He says immigration officials at the airport advised him that his passport was being cancelled on the premise that it was looking worn. Then, at his mailing address, he was greeted by this letter from Senator Conroy's office, stating that the disclosure of the blacklist has been referred to the Australian Federal Police, and that the Media Authority continues to liaise with the AFP on the matter. As we go to air, the Department of Foreign Affairs claim that his passport status is normal, but no one has yet advised Assange of that. And no word yet whether the AFP have been able to contact him to help with their inquiries.